Kirk says, I love the app and the podcast. I'm a 24-year-old slow roadie. Slow's relative. Kirk, you may not be. So it says, with 2 kids and a busy life. I started cycling 3 years ago just as a hobby. Since then, I've realized how fun it is to be able to ride at a fast pace and keep up with the local groups. It's been really hard to train with all life has offered this past year. Because of the lack of training and bad food choices, I've gotten a lot weaker. I don't count calories, and I'm probably about 20 pounds overweight. My question is, I'm new to this stuff. How do I get started with eating healthier and counting calories? How do I know how much I should be eating? Also, any tips on picking my training back up full time would be much appreciated. I think this is probably like a really diverse panel here to answer this one because Alex, you're probably the most data-driven approach to this. I'm pretty close to that. And then we have Pete, the nutrition guy. Ivy, I know that you take a different approach to nutrition as well.
Fast and loose, so. Ivy.
Fast. I love it. Let's start with Alex. What advice would you give to Kirk in this situation of just trying to get started with this about making those healthier choices, counting calories, all that stuff?
I think the first thing I would do is I take a stepped approach. I wouldn't change diet too much. I would just get back into riding regularly and kind of see where you level out with that. I mean, in my mind, he could be so used to riding and then his eating habits didn't change when his riding dropped off. So he's fueling for something he's no longer doing. So I would just get back into riding, pick a low volume plan and get after it. And see where you are there is kind of like a first step. And then from there, I think the second most important thing is just fueling the work, so make sure you're taking a gel or a banana or something. I normally do every 30 minutes on some pretty like endurance style rides and try to figure out what you need for those bigger things. And then kind of just one thing at a time. I think it can be super intimidating, which is also why I don't really do a deep dive into what I do. It's a very controlled personality thing, and I think a lot of people would get very discouraged doing it. And for me, it's just a level of control, and it's not something that happened overnight, right? It's not like I went from 0 to 100 with this. I think the first step is understanding what foods do for you and what certain foods are. So like lean meats are protein, veggies are proteins with a little bit of carbs, and potatoes are carbs, kind of just like at the base of what macros they provide for you. And then trying to get those as much from real foods as you can, because the micronutrients are just as important. So I think it's just, on a face value, we all know like a healthy, quote unquote, right choice from an unhealthy one. And that doesn't mean that you can't go and have Popeyes one night. I just think it's something where it's like, if you make mostly good decisions and fuel mostly well, and then, you have 2 kids and you want to have pizza night, like go for it. Like it is what it is, I think, at the end of the day. So I would just get back on the bike, get back riding, see how you feel, see where you end up. And then from there, try to figure out what works with your personality type. Because me personally, I weigh everything. I know exactly how many carbs I'm eating each day. And for me, it's checking a box. It's like, sweet, I fueled today perfectly. But I mean, Jen and I, sometimes it's just like, 7 o'clock at night and we don't know what to do for dinner and we DoorDash something. It's life. And I'm not perfect, and I never claim to be. I think it's just, on the whole, if you have a plan of attack, whether that's tracking food or, this is how I'm going to fuel my rides, and this is my pre-ride, and this is a breakfast that I like, and it's good. And then again, like you said, with your schedule, leave a little bit of wiggle room, I think it's just understanding on the whole how to fuel that work. And I would be more scared to not fuel the work than I would be to have some more food in the system.
Ivy, forgive me. Ivy, what would you have to add to that, and anything that you found to help you on this approach of finding healthy nutrition choices?
Yeah. I wonder what Kirk considers to be bad food choices. Is it like, like having like only a couple super enormous meals a day, or is it like repeated like food that's not like really nourishing you, or like not really meeting your calorie or nutrition goals? Like what's going on that's making them make like bad food choices? And so, yeah, my like fast and loose approach, I'm going to plug Amber's 8 Principles of Healthy Nutrition with Amber Pierce article, because like they are really like good fundamentals that are kind of generalized. Things like nourish yourself, don't diet during your workouts, good hydration, don't let guilt be part of it, because those things I think can be really helpful in just like general nutrition that for people like me who don't have a hard time focusing on like the super specifics. I mean, there are a couple of specifics that I have, like meeting protein and carbohydrate goals per day. But then after that, like taking a really like broad stroke approach into like meeting my needs has helped me.
Awesome. Pete, what would you add?
This is a good question because we have gotten this question a lot, and I've gotten it a lot specifically. And one of the easiest things to do is remind yourself that you should just be shooting for eating healthier more often than you're eating not healthy, right? Like that's a great starting point. If you know that there is health, if you think that you are making bad choices in any capacity, start to try to make less of those. And the goal would be like an 80 or 90% of the time. Like that keeps you sane and living, and keeps your friends and family happy. But start with eating healthy more often than not. And one of the tricks that I've seen that work really well is pick one day a week, usually your hardest workout day, and adhere to what you would say would be a great, not perfect, great setup for your workout. And that's breakfast, lunch, dinner, workout, fueling, pre and post. And start with one day, because if you can nail one day and you can feel the difference in your body and in your workout, it'll make it so much easier for you to be like, man, that felt really nice. Like also I slept better. My mental acuity was better, like all these things. And that makes like nailing something makes it much easier for you to like kind of shoot for that again and again and again. And when I started, kind of the biggest difference that ever made, or that I did personally, was I started treating all workout days like race days, like Alex does. And because if you fuel properly and you set yourself up to feel the best, my training went through the roof. Like I started training much better, and I felt better the rest of the week too. So start with one day, and I would say don't worry about your overweight. You're not 20 pounds overweight. You're going to eat what you need to eat, and your body will get to where you get to. And if you're nailing workouts, the pounds don't matter. But start with one day, and start just overall trying to make healthier choices, and shoot for greater than 50% of the time. And then only shoot for one day of nailing the workout on a low volume plan. And then the rest you can kind of fit in with your busy life schedule. But doing one day that's just for you and for your workout makes a big difference in how you're going to feel.
I just want to highlight what Ivy said there on Amber's article, which we'll link down below to that. We've already linked it in the live chat if you're watching, so you can check that out. But I'm just going to recap what our principles are, and then you can go and read them. But number 1 is nourish yourself. Number 2, don't diet during your workouts. Number 3, fuel yourself with carbohydrates. Number 4, practice good hydration habits. Number 5, emphasize nutrient density off the bike, but don't overlook enjoyment. Number 6, guilt never needs to be a part of the food equation. 7, just like Ivy said, great job, Ivy. And then 7, practice moderation. And 8, practice fueling to improve. And Ivy has great stuff, Amber has great points on all of that that you can read. So check out that article. In terms, just something I want to add is, you asked like, how do I know how much I should be eating? And something that I've found helpful with this is there's different, if you're eating like, if you're eating a lot of Oreos and a lot of, the typical like junk foods, those foods are so tricky to us because they make us feel satiated after we eat a bunch of them, but then it's also fleeting because then we don't feel full like very quickly thereafter. But it also doesn't give our body the sort of energy that it needs to be able to perform well. So it's really hard to get a bearing on what is eating enough, because in most cases too, those are really calorie dense. So you're getting a ton of calories, but you're effectively starving yourself from what your body needs to be able to improve. You're getting plenty of calories on paper, right? Because many times they're particularly fatty foods, but you're not getting, you're starving your body from what it needs to actually make improvements, right? So when you can shift, and like Pete said, when you start making more healthy choices than not healthy choices, just over time, as that starts to change and you start to do that, you'll start to notice how differently those meals make you feel. And I almost wouldn't say, look at what, use a basal metabolic rate calculator and use that and start with that and then go from there. Because the tricky part is when you're trying to satisfy that equation and reach that number with different foods, you're going to have very different experiences. So instead it would be to fuel with healthy food first, and then get to the point where that's the routine and that's normal. And you're starting to eat that regularly. And then at that point, I promise you, it will become very apparent when you don't have enough fuel on board and you're not taking in enough, because you'll notice it in your workouts. And then as you add more, you'll get there. I've been measuring my food the first week of every month this year. And then I've also done it more than that. And I've found like the absolute, I guess, trouble that you can fall into when you try to stick very closely to that number that is your basal metabolic rate plus whatever calories you burn. And if you do that, it's still, and many times you'll wake up the next day and you won't feel as ready. And there's a lot of life stress, like we've talked about, that comes in, and all that takes a toll. So sometimes you need more. You need more nutrients. You need more rest. You need more recovery. You need more health coming in, right? So I would emphasize going for that, fueling your workouts and with healthy choices. And Amber's article is just awesome on it.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.